They're building the most powerful technology in human history, and they can't even fake a handshake.
The summit was extremely disorganized. We all came up at the last minute, and they changed the order in which we were standing.
That's the excuse. The real reason Sam Altman and Anthropic's CEO can't stand each other has nothing to do with a photo, and to understand it, we have to start with the years the two of them spent inside the same building. Same stage, no handshake. In February 2026, at the India AI Impact Summit in New Delhi, Sam Altman and Dario Amodei stood side by side on a stage with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The group was told to join hands for a photo, and the two men raised their fists instead. The clip spread across the internet within hours and turned into a symbol of something people already suspected. When reporters asked Amodei about it, he pointed to the disorder of the event.
The summit was extremely disorganized. We all came up at the last minute, and they changed the order in which we were standing.
He framed it as a mix-up, a room full of heads of state and last-minute instructions. But the interviewer was not ready to let it go because the picture told a different story than the explanation did.
Sam and Elon are suing each other. You don't like Sam, it seems.
That line put the real question on the table. The handshake was never the point. The point was whether Dario Amodei and Sam Altman, two of the people steering the most consequential technology of the decade, could stand each other at all. And when Amodei answered, he did not deny the tension. He sorted people into groups.
There are some players who are more trustworthy than others.
He did not say a name in that breath. He did not have to, because the question that set it up had already said it for him. Sam Altman was the name in the room. To understand how two founders reached the point of raised fists on a stage in New Delhi, you have to know where they came from. Dario Amodei joined OpenAI around 2016 in the early years, when the company was small and the field was still a rumor. He rose to become one of its most senior researchers, and he helped lead the work that produced GPT-2 and GPT-3, the models that convinced a lot of people the whole approach was going to work. For a stretch, he and Sam Altman sat on the same side of the table, building the same thing and chasing the same goal. Then, at the end of 2020, Amodei and a group of colleagues left. His sister Daniela left with him, and so did around 10 other researchers. In 2021, they announced a new company called Anthropic, and they built a chatbot called Claude. The stated reason was safety. The company positioned itself as the careful one, the lab that would slow down where others sped up. That is the version most people know, the founder who left OpenAI over safety and started a rival. It is the version that became, in the interviewer's own words, a piece of local legend.
Your decision to leave OpenAI has become Silicon Valley lore. What really happened?
Today, the two companies these men represent are no longer small experiments. They are among the largest and most valuable private companies on Earth, competing for the same engineers, the same computing power, the same customers, and the same trillion-dollar future. They show up at the same summits and the same government lunches, and they keep their distance. The raised fists in New Delhi were not the start of anything. They were a snapshot of a rift that had been building for years. By early 2026, that rift had stopped being a private matter between two executives. It was showing up in Super Bowl ad breaks, in fights over government contracts, in viral clips, and in the body language at international summits. Each company had a story it told about itself, and a quieter story it told about the other. OpenAI cast itself as the bold one, the company putting powerful tools in the hands of hundreds of millions of people. Anthropic cast itself as the trustworthy one, the healthy alternative for anyone nervous about how fast the technology was moving. And underneath both of those stories sat a single unanswered question, the one the handshake moment dragged back into the light. What exactly happened between these two men, and who walked away from whom? How it started? The beginning was not a rivalry at all. It was a shared bet that almost nobody else was making. OpenAI was founded in 2015 as a non-profit launched by Sam Altman, Elon Musk, Greg Brockman, Ilya Sutskever, and a handful of others, with a mission that sounded almost naive when you read it out loud. They wanted to build artificial intelligence that benefited all of humanity, unconstrained by the need to make money. In those first years, big decisions were made over dinners, and the group was small enough that a single conversation could set the direction of the whole company. Dario Amodei walked into that world around 2016 and quickly became one of its most important minds. By 2018, he was a research director, and the work coming out of his teams was starting to reshape what people thought was possible. When he later explained why he and his group eventually broke away, he traced it back to two convictions that took hold inside that building. Convictions, he says, his circle believed more intensely than almost anyone else there.
There was a group of us within OpenAI that, in the wake of making GPT-2 and GPT-3, had a kind of very strong focused belief in two things.
The first belief belief was about scale. Pour more computing power into these models. Keep feeding them, and they would keep getting better with almost no ceiling in sight. That idea is close to conventional wisdom now, but at the time it was a genuine gamble. The second belief was the one that would eventually define his entire company, and it was about the danger hidden inside the first.
You needed something in addition to just scaling the models up, which is alignment or safety.
In other words, raw power was not enough on its own. You could not simply make a model bigger and trust it to behave. Someone had to work out how to give these systems values, how to keep them honest and controllable as they grew stronger. Amadei describes a tight circle of people inside OpenAI who held both of these beliefs at once, and who came to lean on one another as they worked.
We really trusted each other and wanted to work together, and so we went off and started our own company with that idea in mind.
Listen closely to that last clip, because the word that matters most is trust, not safety. Trust. He and his group trusted each other, and the unspoken half of that sentence is that at some point they stopped trusting the people they were leaving behind. We will come back to that, because in 2020 the surface story was a lot cleaner and quieter than the one running underneath it. The cracks had been forming for a while. A Wall Street Journal account of the feud traces the tension back through years of struggles over leadership, credit, power, and the direction of the company, with roots that reportedly reach all the way back to a shared house in San Francisco and a run of internal fights. As OpenAI grew, the informal dinners gave way to harder questions. Who was in charge? Who deserved the credit? How fast to move, and how much caution to trade away for speed? One of the loudest early departures was not Amadei's. In 2018, Elon Musk left the board, a split that OpenAI later framed around disagreements over control and funding, and that Musk framed around a mission he felt was being abandoned. He had wanted more control, and when he did not get it, he walked, and he largely stopped the flow of money he had promised. His exit left a hole, and the company filled it by changing shape. To fund the enormous cost of chasing artificial general intelligence, OpenAI created a capped profit arm and took a massive investment from Microsoft, which gained a significant stake and a significant say. The non-profit that had promised to work outside the logic of money now had a commercial engine bolted onto it. For some people inside, that shift was the natural price of staying competitive. For others, it was the moment the company began drifting away from the thing they had signed up to build. By December 2020, Dario Amadei had seen enough. He, his sister Daniela, and around 10 colleagues walked out together and founded Anthropic, announcing it to the world in 2021. Publicly, the framing was all about safety, about building a lab that treated caution as a feature rather than a break. They introduced a method they called constitutional AI, a way of training a model to follow an explicit written set of principles rather than just the average preferences of a crowd of human raters, so that the system's behavior could be inspected and steered instead of hidden. Claude, their chatbot, was pitched from the very first day to enterprises that could not afford a model that made things up or did something unpredictable. That was the story on the label. A group of safety-minded researchers who wanted to do it more carefully left and did it their own way. It is true as far as it goes, but Amadei has been clear again and again that safety alone was never the real reason. Safety was the disagreement they could have lived with, something else was the disagreement they could not. Who really said it? If the split had simply been about safety, the two companies might have drifted apart quietly and competed like any other rivals. Instead, the years after 2020 kept pulling the personal wound back open. In November 2023, when Sam Altman was briefly pushed out by OpenAI's own board, reports say the board reached out to Dario Amadei about stepping in to run the company, and even floated the idea of merging the two labs together. Amadei said no to both. Think about what that refusal says. The rivals board offered him the keys to the most famous AI company on Earth, and he turned them down rather than tie himself back to it. Altman returned to power days later, and the fracture between the two camps only hardened. Then came the public jabs. In early 2026, Anthropic ran Super Bowl ads that quietly needled OpenAI over its decision to put advertising inside ChatGPT, positioning Claude as the option you could actually trust. Altman fired back, calling the framing dishonest and saying it was on brand for how Anthropic talks about his company. The two labs also collided over government work, with Anthropic reportedly refusing certain military applications on principle, while OpenAI leaned into the deals, each side using the contrast to argue that it was the more responsible one. And then in a June 2026 interview, Dario Amadei said the part he had mostly kept behind closed doors. Asked directly what really drove him out of OpenAI, he set safety aside almost immediately and went somewhere sharper.
When you feel that you can't trust someone, when you feel that their values are not what they say they are.
He was not talking about a technical dispute anymore. He was talking about character, and he kept going.
When you feel that they're not honest, when you see disturbing patterns of behavior, dishonesty.
That is about as direct as a founder gets in public about a rival. Not a difference of opinion on policy, but a claim that the words and the actions did not match. And when the interviewer pressed on why he simply left instead of staying to fight it out, Amodei gave the line that ties the whole thing together.
At the end of the day, why argue with someone when you don't have the same vision and you don't trust them?
There it is. Not hatred, and not a grudge he wanted to nurse in public, but a decision to stop arguing and start competing. He said he had made his peace with it.
And I am completely at peace with the idea that we're doing things our way and they're doing things their way.
And he handed the final verdict to somebody other than himself.
We'll see who wins in the market, and we'll see who wins in the court of public opinion.
Now hold that against the title we started with. The story was supposed to be Sam Altman revealing why he hates the man who runs Anthropic. But listen to who is actually doing the talking. Every one of those lines came from Dario Amodei. The founder who left is the one naming trust, values, and honesty out loud. The founder who stayed has said far less about him directly, and what he has said has been glancing rather than personal. Altman has suggested that some labs built their entire identity on opposing OpenAI, a shot that lands in Anthropic's direction without ever pointing at Amodei by name. Here's the part that reframes the whole thing. When Sam Altman gets sharp in public, the target is usually not Dario Amodei at all. It is Elon Musk. The lawsuit between Musk and Altman has been the loudest, ugliest fight in the industry, full of accusations that Altman and his co-founders betrayed the original mission and enriched themselves along the way. When Musk reportedly led a group offering around $97.4 billion to seize control of OpenAI's nonprofit parent, Altman's answer was not a careful statement. It was a shrug and a taunt.
The company is not for sale, neither is the mission.
He even offered on camera to turn the tables.
We're happy to buy Twitter, let's talk about that.
That is where Altman spends his venom. On Musk, who sued him, not on Amodei, who left him. A federal jury sided with OpenAI in May 2026 on a technicality, dismissing Musk's case, and Musk vowed to appeal. The heat in that relationship is a different order of magnitude from anything Altman has ever aimed at Anthropic. And if you zoom out even further, there is a third voice that scrambles the neat one man hates the other story completely. In the summer of 2026, Palantir's Alex Karp went after both of them at once, lumping Sam and Dario together as symbols of an AI business model he thinks is quietly failing the very companies that pay for it.
Sam and Dario, there's nothing more fun than debating Dario in private.
He was careful to say he respected them, and then he swung anyway.
I'm not throwing shade at them, but something has gone completely wrong.
His complaint was about the whole token-based way these labs sell their models to big companies, a model he thinks quietly drains the customer while feeding the lab.
I'm going to chillax and waste my time with tokens. I'm going to get no value, and they're going to get my IP. Why are they charging for tokens if it's so valuable?
To an outsider like Karp, Altman, and Amodei are not enemies on opposite ends of a moral line. They are two versions of the same thing, running the same play and facing the same criticism. So what is the real answer to the question in the title? There is no moment when Sam Altman stood up and revealed why he hates Dario Amodei, because that reveal never happened. The confession came from the other direction. It was Amodei who spoke about broken trust, about values that did not match actions, about a man he could no longer work beside. And even he stopped short of the word hate, choosing instead to say he was at peace and would let the market and the public decide. Altman's real rival, the one he trades insults with, is Elon Musk, not the founder who quietly walked out the door and built Claude. The rift between Sam Altman and Anthropic's CEO is real and deep, and it started long before anyone refused a handshake in New Delhi, but the arrow in the title points the wrong way. The person who told the world why the relationship ended was not Sam Altman. It was Dario Amodei, and the reason he gave was never really hate. It was trust and the loss of it. If you had to pick a winner in that fight for the market and the court of public opinion, which side would you put your money on? Let me know in the comments.